What is up? It is Andy. I hope you are having a rather mediocre weekend because today we are going to be, well, if you start with a mediocre weekend, then you can watch something like this. It's like, you know what? Now my weekend is still mediocre, but at least I know a thing or two about a series out there in the Western Conference. I already talked about the two series out east, and just like in my own life, started out east and after college, ventured out west. That's what I'm going to be doing today, venturing out west to talk about this matchup between two Pacific teams, the Edmonton Oilers and the Vegas Golden Knights. These are two teams who played in the playoffs a couple years ago. Most of the same players of those cores are still there. And we know 2 years ago, the Vegas Golden Knights, they won the Stanley Cup, never even got pushed to a Game 7. And now Vegas, after beating the Minnesota Wild in a highly contested series, they finished that series, in my opinion, playing their best hockey. They were mostly shutting things down. They gave up two goals. That's what you want to be seeing when you're a team like the Vegas Golden Knights. I think they were playing their better hockey toward the end of that series. And the team that they're going to be facing, I think it's fair to say the same thing about them. You had the worst team you've ever seen in your life, the Edmonton Oilers, play the first two games of that series. I'm sorry, did I say two? 4 games of that series. And then you saw a completely different team in the final 2 games of that series. So what the hell are we going to... This is the curious case of the Edmonton Oilers. And that's what my first bullet point actually is here. The good oil, bad oil conundrum. You can look at this Oilers team and you can sell yourself on the idea, oh, they're losing this in 5 games. Look at them. They had to do a duct tape job on round 1. Look at their brutal goaltending. Vegas, a buttoned up team, they're just going to waltz right through them. Or you can easily convince yourself, yep, the Oilers found their groove. Their power play is scoring every single time they go on it. Draisaitl, McDavid, they're producing at an elite rate. Bouchard was. Now all of a sudden, Kane is helping out on offense. Everybody's starting to find their form in the playoffs. Now we're going to see the best from the Oilers. And you don't know which one for certain is the case. The Oilers, I swear to you, are one of the biggest monkey wrenches I've ever seen thrown into a playoff bracket. You get that a little bit with the Avalanche because the Avalanche are such a high-scoring, high-powered offense, but the Oilers are all over the place, just like in the Stanley Cup Final. They lose 3 straight games. The Panthers are pretty much controlling them. They're doing whatever they want. Edmonton isn't scoring a lot. Then they erupt in Game 4. Florida can't win a game. And then it gets to a Game 7. And then they go back to controlling Edmonton and win 2-1 or 3-1, whatever it was. I forgot if there was an empty net goal. But this is who you're talking about with the Edmonton Oilers. And it's not just me who's confused. It's the sportsbook who are also confused because they have the road team, the Edmonton Oilers, favored in this series. Now, if you ever listen to me talk about hockey, the teams that I favor, the teams that I like teams that build around defense, teams who can shut it down so you don't find yourself like the Colorado Avalanche with a 2-0 lead in the third period and end up losing a series because your whole team is not built about shutting it down when it counts the most. That is literally what the Vegas Golden Knights do. They're there to score just as much as they need to and then lock it down with rock-steady defense and reliable goaltending. And that's just Bruce Cassidy's way. So if you're to show me these two teams, just 2 philosophies, no players, I'm going to say, give me Vegas. I'll just take that style every single time. Kind of like the Kings, who had the number 2 defense in the NHL. And we all saw what happened to them and how many goals they conceded. It's because of these damn Edmonton Oilers and the X factors they have, not just McDavid and Draisaitl, but that elite power play. The range of outcomes are so wide when it comes to this Oilers team. But the one thing that I do believe is certain, it's Stanley Cup or bust for them. They came so close to that Stanley Cup. And traditionally, when we've seen teams play, the team who just kind of gets there and they're nibbling and they're at the door. We saw Tampa go to 2 Stanley Cups and then they won 2 Stanley Cups. We saw Florida make it to that Stanley Cup and then they won a Stanley Cup. And now, who knows, they might win another one. But usually it's that formula where teams develop that skill in finding a way to win these games. So I'm not going to lie when I say this is it has a fascinating dynamic. My brain, my hockey brain says always take a team like the Vegas Golden Knights. But these damn Edmonton Oilers, the same way you saw me in the last series, when it came to make a pick, I'm like, look, if you're forcing me to make a pick in my bracket, I'm going to have a hard time not choosing the Edmonton Oilers. But I guess if their power play starts clear, I'm just going to bank on that power play winning them a series because they can find their groove very quickly. And I have the same sort of feelings here. Now, we can look at that series from 2 years ago, and there's one thing that was totally apparent when looking back at that series. The Edmonton Oilers scored at will on the power play. If they went to the power play, it scored. It got to a point where Vegas was terrified to take penalties. Like when they took a penalty, it cut to the coach, and they're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Look at the rate that their power play hit in that series, and it's almost crazy that they weren't able to win this series. And then that Vegas Golden Knights team, it's kind of the same thing that I was talking about, where they had more finishers. They were more in their prime. It was a slightly better version offensively than what you see now. Those same kind of questions I asked in the last series, I don't think were answered particularly. Like whether we're talking about Dorofeev, who we actually don't know his health status, and Victor Olofsson, those are the new Marchessaults and players like that, and Stevensons. I don't think it's a 1-for-1. I think this is a slightly worse Vegas team, although their power play did look good throughout the course of that series. I think Vegas was beatable in that first round, and I think Edmonton will be able to beat them in this round. It's just so weird for me to say because it's like, oh yeah, I like what they do there. I like how they play defense there. I like pretty much everything that they do on that side of the table. But like there's those astrology chicks who are like, you got to trust the Mercury retrograde, and that's how you know. The same feeling I have this series is the same feeling that I had last series, where, oh God, my philosophy wants to just, the Kings are playing well. Vegas is, but I'm taking the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, if I need to sell you on an idea, they played their absolute best hockey in those final few games, and they took over that series. So they are rolling into this Vegas Golden Knights series with full confidence, especially offensively, because they're starting to get production from those other guys in the lineup. First couple of games, it's all McDavid, it's all Draisaitl. Then you started to see, you saw a Nugent Hopkins goal, you saw some Hyman goals, you saw Vander Kane score a goal. So if they're getting that supplementary scoring and you know what you're going to get from those big guys in Bouchard, which you saw throughout the whole series, but then also there's the not top 10 goaltending, which is another ridiculous fact. I mean, look, they beat the Dallas Stars in 6 games with Stuart Skinner playing awful. They had to pull Skinner against the Vancouver Canucks. And whether you like it or not, these Edmonton Oilers have won series in every single kind of way. They can be down 2-0 in this series, and it will not be the end of them. They were down 3-2 to the Vancouver Canucks, won that series. They were down 3-0 to the Florida Panthers, almost won that series. Down 2-0 to the... They are currently battle-tested. They went to the conference finals, second round, Stanley Cup final. They've been in all different types of series, and I'm really starting to like their ability. That alligator blood where you can't get rid of them. Even if they're playing awful, they'll find a way just to get through those games. And then when they do take the momentum, they can run away with it, as you saw in their last couple of wins toward the end of that Kings series. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Edmonton Oilers to take this series, mostly because of that invincible every single year. Doesn't matter. Nobody can truly stop them power play. The goaltending, as you see, even if you have a bad goalie, you can have a great goalie like Connor Hellebuck, and you see what happens with that. You can have mediocre goalies, and they could just have random sporadic performances. They are in the NHL after all, and you know what? There's no pressure on either of these goals. I don't know who Edmonton's actually going to play. I mean, last year when they went away from Skinner and they won, they went back to Skinner. I wouldn't be surprised if Skinner even starts game 1 in this series. So you never know if they're going to have a good performance here and there. Any single goalie can do it. We saw the Hamburglar go on a magical run come playoff time. Goaltending is mostly a product of what the team is doing in front of them. But yeah, I'm going with the Edmonton Oilers here in this series against the Vegas Golden Knights. And I went digging a little bit for maybe some props in there, some sort of bets that I might like, something that I think would be a good value or whatnot. The first thing that I saw, Connor McDavid, I believe, a guy like him, 3 goals in a series that should go at least 6, right? Nobody really thinks this is going to end in 5. So in a 6-game series, I think McDavid, who, he had 4 points in a single game against the King. What do you have, 10 points in that first series? I think he can find the score sheet 3 times in terms of scoring goals. That's a plus 120 right there. And then I just found one that's hilarious because remember how I told you Mark Stone's just brutal? Yeah, well, they have his goals in this series at 1.5. They have his goals set at 1.5. So I guess I'm not the only one. And he plays with Jack Eichel. He's on the top line and top power play with Jack Eichel. They have his goals at 1.5. So I saw him on Bet Rivers, head-to-head points versus Leon Draisaitl. Brutal price. But that bet's as good as finished. I'm taking Leon Draisaitl, and then I'm doing the Florida Panthers to win the series against the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's an even money bet. It was just a funny way to bet against just slow as molasses Mark Stone. You guys mostly saw how awful he was. He will always get some points because he's playing with Eichel, and he got some toward the end of the series. What was he, pointless through the first 3 or 4? You know that's not going to happen with Draisaitl. That's pretty much a shoo-in right there. It was tough. This particular series, when I was looking at some of those like head-to-head matchups, and there aren't too many great ones when it comes to that series, other than the series itself, which is going to be a fantastic one to watch because, I think people, including, I always tell you, as you go on in the playoffs, you tend to have lower scoring games. Notice in that previous round, I never said anything about unders in those Oilers games. The Oilers and Avalanche, for the most part, are 2 teams who just break all the rules, and I don't know what the hell to do in terms of overs and unders. I would imagine some higher scoring games, believe it or not, early in this series, because the Oilers seemingly are willing to trade chances. I want to see how much the Golden Knights can score. Can the Golden Knights randomly run up the score? Because they were able to do that in that Oilers series a couple years back, but we didn't really see it against the Wild. And I'm curious to see if they can score 5 goals, 6 goals, because say what you want about the Kings blowing it early in that series. They needed 6 to win game 1. And they could keep piling it up when their offense was clicking and their power play was clicking. So let's see how many goals the Golden Knights can score, because I can assure you, Edmonton's going to find their goals in this series one way or another. The question is, will the Knights be able to bring that playoff defense that we know they have? They've won a Stanley Cup with it, and that's going to be where the matchup lies in this series. But my gut told me the Oilers last round. You guys know what that's like. All you do is trust your gut, even though it's wrong all the time. I'm going to trust my gut. I'm going to trust my nose and take the Edmonton Oilers here. That's what I have for you for this Western Conference Division semifinal series preview. I got one more of these, and then we're back to just daily sniffs. Good luck to you. Better luck to me. Make sure you're subscribed here to my YouTube channel. Click the notifications so you know when these come out, so you know when all my videos come out. It could be in the afternoon, could be in the night, could be in the weekend, could be in the morning. It could be any single time. So you'll only know when it comes out. Get those sniffs nice and early by clicking the notifications. But you can do something even better than that. You can be a minority owner of this show. You can be the lone sponsor. No Starburst. If I did do Starburst, I would promote something called Starburst minus yellow, because if you like yellow, you're just a serial killer. And now all the people are, go ahead, comment how much you love yellow, because it will help, the engagement will somehow help this video. So let me know your favorite color Starburst. If you're yellow, you're Charles Manson, and you can sign up for that Patreon at patreon.com/Andy Francess. I almost forgot to mention, that's where I'll put out sniffs, closer to the games on weekends. That's where Josh puts his MLB daily sniffs. He does it 7 days a week. There's a lot of stuff for you over there, including chat rooms with the other sniffers. I hope to see you there. If not, I'll see you for the final conference division semifinal breakdown. Take it easy.